So I spend 80% of my waking hours on my app and YouTube channel. Yeah. So today I'm going to run through the systems I have in place that help me make all this stuff. If you're a founder with a very focused goal, like building an app, you no longer succumb to distractions nearly as much as you otherwise might have, since you don't care about much else besides what you're building. And while all systems save you time, it's time management systems that become really critical when you're working on your own mission as a founder. When I was still at my day job, time management was really simple. I would either wake up early and work on the app, or I'd work on it after work in the evenings. I had two options, and if I wasn't going to do it then I just wasn't making any progress on the app. So my mindset was, just work on the app in your free time as much as you can. And that was cool. Except now my time is always my free time. And this worked super well for a while. I'd say about 3 weeks at a time, until what happens is chaos steps in and you realize, damn, I really need to calendar block stuff. Because when you look back, you realize how much time you're wasting working on stupid shit. You could keep on applying that mindset indefinitely, but only if you have real external stresses like deadlines and a real lasting obsession with something, or other people around you to keep you aligned working on the right stuff. But I'd say after 3 weeks of going really hard, you typically lose a bit of the obsession, and it does help to fall back on some systems. But I lost that obsession after about 3 weeks, which is why I now use these systems, otherwise the wheels start falling off. But before I get into all of these systems, you need to remember that the goal with all this is actually to always try to remove as many excess systems as you possibly can, especially as a solo founder. Something that saves me a lot of time when making videos is shortcuts that I have set up with Automator. So if I use the shortcut, in my case, I've made a Control-Command-V, then I type in whatever I call the YouTube video, boom, and it immediately makes the folder structure that I like to use for my videos and certain files and things in here that I end up using. Let's just delete that. And all I have done here is I just have a folder path in Finder somewhere. I mean, you can kind of see how it works here. If you're interested, I can share all of these things with you guys. But I Finder shortcuts for lots of things. In fact, let's open Automator again. What do I have? Yeah, I made different ones for like making a new media dump, which is like if I went on holiday and I'm recording stuff. Instagram posts, resizing images, which you can also do in Automator, which is really cool. Things you end up doing a lot. You can almost always end up doing it in Automator. But at the same time, I also use Keyboard Maestro, which I have. Oh, this is a complete freaking lifesaver. So the one thing that I use a lot is Control-N. It immediately opens a new Finder window in the top left, and then I can open stuff here. And I also have Control-Shift-N, which opens up two on the left side. So if I want to drag stuff between things, which I need to do all the time when copying files, super nice and simple. What else do I have in here that I use a lot? Spotify play pause. I have a little shell script to play and pause Spotify. So if I have a YouTube tab open or whatever, then that will only play it and pause Spotify, which is really nice. And then this Control-Command-B, I use all the fucking time. I can't believe there isn't a thing on Mac, but I plug in my external display and I want that brightness to go down. If I do it, if I just hold Control-Command-B, it moves my brightness up to a certain percentage I like. So it basically just toggles between 0 and the brightness setting that you set. This is a lifesaver. I use it multiple times a day. I don't know how people don't do it. Your Mac screen just stays on bright while you plug it into an external display. It's weird. And I have a similar thing for toggling the volume on my Mac. Easily mute or unmute with Control-Command-S instead of like spamming the freaking button. But you'll see with all this, I've been using Raycast to search for stuff. One of the things I use a lot here, I've set a shortcut Control-E, but if you're using the emojis is just so much better than a Mac. You can use the arrow keys or type, and then you just hit enter and paste it into wherever you were typing. And then to make this video, I'm recording with Screen Studio because it's like a opinionated screen recorder, which just makes it super simple. That's really all the YouTube stuff. It's quite simple. Let's get onto the app. So seeing as we were just in Raycast, one of the things I use all the time when coding is I've set the left arrow to kill process. You just hit enter and I usually type in cursor because I use the cursor IDE for everything TypeScript related, and it can just die and I just need to kill the processes and then it starts working again. So I use this like all the time when I'm coding. You can just go into Activity Monitor, but this just is so much more helpful. Cursor, the one and only. Yeah, pretty much the best AI IDE. The Composer is just killer, but it often hangs for so long that, I could go for a whole day and not have autocomplete or the Composer working, and there's just nothing I can do. Anyway, so there's a sneak peek into the code. And then another one of the apps I use is Alt Tab. It's literally just called Alt Tab. This is just the nicest way to see. You just continue pressing tab and you can go between all the windows that are open with a little preview in your current space on a Mac, which is bizarre that this doesn't exist natively. Like, I don't know what anything, and some of these are open, but they haven't actually got a window open. So I don't consider that as an Windows user. Like, that's not open. So here's the dashboard for the app. Make it delightful. That's something that I'm quite passionate about when it comes to building software. I like things to be delightful and nice to use. Yeah, so got a little cute statement there. I think a lot of the stuff that I'm actually using is pretty standard right now in the industry. Google Analytics, Post Hog, ConvertKit. I'm using Formbricks for forms. Canny for feedback. I'm using Application Insights for logging as well. So I actually haven't really been using PostHog. And then in terms of infrastructure, we're pretty much hosting everything on DigitalOcean in a Kubernetes cluster now. And we use Octopus Deploy for our CI/CD pipeline. And then JetBrains have made their IDEs free for personal use, but now I use it for the database feature. This is something like dbeaver, which I also have, is quite good. Rider's database, everything is just an absolute bliss to use compared to something like dbeaver. And if you scroll down on the left of the view, if you go to scratches and consoles, I can see all the old scripts and stuff that I ran, which it just saves. So in my code base, I can also see scripts that I ran against the database just once off, which is so useful. Just so great they have a place for all this. Like if Rider had Cursor's AI features, it would just be amazing. This is the backend for the app, and we built it in .NET, in C#, which may or may not have been the best decision, but we built most of it using this paid for software called Intent Architect, which I'm just going to show you. There's nothing really to hide. But you build the code by essentially scaffolding out the domain. Here's our domain. And then adding different methods on your entities, updates and mutating methods and constructors. And then you can go and define your services that do things with your entities, and you can expose them very simply with an API by just literally doing Command-Shift-E, bam, and then it becomes part of your open API spec. It's amazing. It's really amazing. It's a little bit buggy and all that. Do we regret using it? Not really. That's what we use. Now I am building this app in Next.js, and I kind of want to get back to Vercel, Octopus Deploy, and what we're doing with DigitalOcean. I think there's so much hype around just serverless everything, and that stuff can get so expensive so quickly. So hosting on Kubernetes, especially once you've got it set up in the beginning, which did take us like a week plus, is just phenomenal. I have a free program called Lens, so I don't have to use the terminal. Just a nice GUI to view your Kubernetes cluster. This is where I see everything in Kubernetes, the deployments, pods, all that jazz. I'm not going to show it. I also I moved my DNS records from wherever I bought them, I can't remember, to Cloudflare. And the reason I migrated those records is because Cloudflare has an API. You can get a token somewhere in here. And then in the Kubernetes cluster, there's just I forget what the service is called, but essentially every time we do a deployment, you just define certain stuff in the ingress for that service that's in the deployment. And then it will go and use Let's Encrypt to get the certificate for the domain you own. And that uses Cloudflare's API. So now every time I have a new domain or a new service that a new app that I want to make or spin up, then you literally just go define it in the ingress for that service when you make a deployment for it. And then bam, you're going to get your certificate. You don't have to worry with getting charged ridiculous fees to have a website that you are hosting yourself. So we use DigitalOcean for that Kubernetes and for the database. Yeah, definitely not going back to a VPS after using Kubernetes. That is for sure. This I don't use too much, but Warp is quite nice. You can store like commands that you do on the left under folders, and then I can go and do whatever I need to do. Yeah, like refreshing the DNS. I used Figma. I'm sure everyone's seen Figma, so I don't need to go over that. But the initial designs I did before even landing up in Figma, I used Balsamiq. And Balsamiq is actually really fun to make an idea for an interface like if you're building an app, really fast because they just have preset things. Like you can put a web page type stuff in and it's got like a little funky sort of hand drawn style because that's kind of what it is. This is the initial mock-up. So when it comes down to coding, all I do is I hop onto my Notion dashboard. I see what I have next in the tasks and subtasks page. And I have a board view, which is organized by epic. But what I usually do is I go into the epic. So for now, I'm in Typeway 2.0. And then one thing that is super important is to be able to just go onto your tasks that you have for your thing and know what you're going to work on next. So I have in progress, upside down to work. I know there's one thing that I'm focusing on, and that's what I'm doing. And in terms of other GPT stuff, one thing I used a lot was find.com. This is great for getting coding answers quickly. So when I was learning TypeScript, this was really nice. But now I just do everything in Cursor. But when Cursor's breaking and not working and hanging, then I come to Find. Otherwise, ChatGPT T3 Chat is nice for quick questions because it's really fast. And then I actually use Toby in Chrome, which replaces the homepage. And this is where I store different sets of tabs that I'm going to come back to when I'm doing certain features. So this is like a sort of search run I went on, and I want to save it and come back to it, but it's not necessarily a bookmark. So I have a lot of shit in here. Toby is also lifesaver. Oh, and lastly, of course, we have Bartender to hide everything that you don't ever want to see, like Creative Cloud and bloody Docker dashboard, all that jazz. That's it. Systems must add value to the organization and be flexible enough that you don't need to do excess rigor, which stops you actually doing the system because it all seems like such a mission. It's about taking the mundane to the extreme. I write, I do pull-ups, I code, but I do it every day and I do it obsessively. And that's why I slowly make progress. We'll see, the story is still left open-ended. But thanks for watching. If you did enjoy some of these systems and the ideas and thoughts I have, please be sure to like and subscribe. It'll really help. Growing this channel is taking a lot of time, and I'm sure you can see how much effort goes into everything behind the scenes. So thanks a ton. See you in the next one next week.